Hello, I'm Sherrill, Garth, and I'm checking in with Facebook to say hello to Facebook and to let Facebook know I'm doing fine. I've been out resisting and persisting and mobilizing in the community. Yes, we have been alerting people to the fact that they are now getting ready to have the Republicans vote on a bill that might take away from some while empowering and wealthing others to have greater income. And that would happen to be the rich. And the middle class and poor can possibly lose all that we've worked for in getting our benefits and our Medicare and Medicaid. So I want people to band together for the Resistant Summer and to know the real facts about Obamacare, that it was successful and it did serve a purpose of giving those who did not have health care. And now we're talking about Trump care. Nobody can seem to explain it or telling us exactly what it is, and nobody has been able to tell if it will be a better plan or not. And to my knowledge, it will take billions of dollars away from those existing people who have health care. And it takes quite a while to get Medicare, as you know. It takes a long time to get Medicare. And we are going to have to put our minds together and go out and resist and persist that things are done right this time. We know that when the Democrats get back in office, there may be a lot of stuff we can do then. But as it stands now, we have got to be like Queen Nzinga and say, I will persist and resist. As you know, Queen Nzinga was in a war, and she laid low for 5 years so nobody could find her. Then she came out of hiding and she sprung on them. And she insisted and persisted that the war would be over against slavery. Now, I'm going to say that for the record, a lot of us don't realize that we are still in slavery. Whenever we are still trying to determine what are the rights of the Asiatic native man who was here first, we have a problem. If we are still insisting that we get reparation, we have a serious problem. We can't ask anybody for anything. We must take what's ours because we have to resist and persist. And that's what this Resistant Summer is all about. And working with these group of people, it has given me the ability to go out freely and talk to people about what is going on in the community. Talk to them about what we have up against us. Now, you know, Black Lives Matter is out there, but I want to also say co-parenting for the co-parents who have children that are in these dead schools now have access to choice. You can now take your children to the school of your choice in most of the 50 states. That means you can exercise the right to take your child to a private school. But I want to say this to you parents, that may be a good thing because most private schools don't have special ed. And for those of you who have young boys that are black, that are in special ed, you might want to usher them in to one of the choice private schools and give that child the first-hand choice of learning how to read. Because when most of these young people come out of special ed and into the mainstreams, they're behind several grade levels in their reading capability. Why is it that the class sizes are smaller and there's less children in the class where teachers could direct their attention on those individuals who can't read, and the children still don't get the necessary one-on-one that they need. Parents, I'm saying to you, go back and get your training in co-parenting, resolution, and get your children out of the system. If your children are stuck in foster care and your children have been taken away, you should be struggling to become an advocate, to advocate for your children coming home. And this is Jubilee time. Not only are your children coming home, they're coming out of these dead classrooms where they have been misdiagnosed and placed into special ed classes and should be in linguistic classroom in ELL. Yes, you have a right to the ELL classes because most of our African children, American African children, do have a language deficit. So therefore, there are shelter classes. There's services that they can qualify under the ELL laws. Don't turn your back on these programs. There are many immigrants who refuse to allow their children to go into these shelter classes. But after working and doing internship in these shelter classes, I see what these shelter classes can do for these children who come in from other countries. I see that their socialization is much better. They're learning how to socialize. They're learning their cultural heritage, and they're learning how to speak in good conversational English, Orthodox English. So, some are saying that African Americans should be learning Kiswahili. They should also be learning how to speak Meduneta, so that when we go to other countries where our people are speaking French, Portuguese, and many other languages, we can use our languages to communicate with our own brothers and sisters. And that is something that I'm pushing for in the language category. In the past, I've worked with the married couples for the community and helping married couples to be able to get assistance. And those who have gone through a divorce, to assist them in getting them materials and information that they need. Now, I joined on with the Resisted Summer because I wanted to see a difference in the community. And what I mean by a difference in the community, I mean a difference where we can come in and create communities, neighborhoods again. You cannot begin to deal with your economic problem until you have a community. Now, we've been given these dead neighborhoods that have been disconnected, but the way we put them back together again, we have to start feeling free enough to knock on doors, to speak to people in common areas like our malls and our marketplaces, to speak to them, to tell them what time it is, to tell them what the pulse of the people is, and have them give you input of what the pulse of the people is. It's very vital that we should understand that we are not going to get anywhere until we understand that community is everything. Be a tribal group. Yes, so many tribes have fought against each other, but that's the makeup of a tribe. The differences, but we must learn how to get along in spite of our differences. And now we have a world full of hate and bitterness and partiality and racial prejudice. Now, I say that an African American cannot become racist against you when in fact he has no power to do you one better or to take anything away from you economically. The person who can make your life miserable and take away your economic standard is the one that has the ability to reinforce this slavery and racism. So we are going to be talking about it today ladies and gentlemen. And the reason why we're going to be talking about it today is because I want you to know that I've been pretty silent over the summer because I've had a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do dealing with organizing and mobilizing. I talked to you once before about mobilizing. It's very important that we should understand that we have got to learn how to mobilize. Those that are organizers of you need to come out and be a part of the summer resistant so you can help us to organize the people. Now you see these beads that I wear here. They're very sacred beads. I was so happy that I could spend at least 5 years under the feet of a priest who taught me about my heritage and my history and culture, and who initiated me into a custom of Yoruba to give me an ability to belong and to connect with my tribal people. Yes, we must learn about our Native Americans, because most of us are Native Americans, whether we know it or not. Most of us are Asiatic people who came here not on ships, but we were here as Moors, blackamoors, working, building the masts for the ship, laying the logistics for the ships to cross. We were here as educators, herbalists, alternative medicine, nature workers. We were here as engineers. We created the first toilet stool. If it wasn't for the African American, there wouldn't be anywhere for a person to take a dump. And that's the first thing, is hygiene, that we were concerned with. So there's a lot of history we don't know about ourselves that we must come into consciousness very quickly. And we must come into consciousness immediately. Because if we do not come into consciousness, our children are going to remain ignorant. And we cannot have that. Now, as I was telling you, you become ignorant when you don't know your heritage and your history. And a lot of us, thinking ourselves to be brilliant and intellectuals, are lacking in our culture. As we greet each other with an open hand, we greet each other with our customs and tradition. Do not be ashamed of your customs and tradition. Do not be ashamed of the fact that part of you share Native American blood. Just as they had the Seminole Indians, there was a place where the Seminoles all met. And that place is now called Central Park. And that Central Park was a Seminole area for the Underground Railroad. And they wanted the people to stop meeting there, and they deterred them and ran them away. Central Park is still standing now. If I'm not mistaken, it's either in New York or California. But the Seminole Indians were resistors. They were mobilizers. No, you could not get them to give up. They persisted and resisted. And the Seminole Indians went out towards Oklahoma and in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. And a lot of us are descendants of Seminole Indians. And because they spoke Geechee and French, we need to learn that language so we can communicate with our Native brothers and sisters. This will call for you to seek out your heritage and reconnect. Don't anyone that's Caucasian be upset because blacks want to know their heritage. It's not to disagree you or disrespect you. It's to show honor in our own race first so that we can respect ourselves and know thyself. Being Native American and Asiatic would mean that you have a great heritage And that would mean that Christopher Columbus did not stumble upon you. You were already here, occupying and functioning and doing the necessary things for a culture to thrive. And during that time, they gave you the name of Indian, but that is not your normal name. It's Asiatic. And there's no such thing as a black Native American. Native Americans are black. When other races got breeded in, then the Native Asiatic became a little bit more lighter because of the mixing of the bloods. It's very vital that when we go out dressed in our African garb to give some position of standing, of not only being proud, but to also represent that which has been lost, to recreate, to reconnect that which is lost, so that others will draw attention to you and ask more questions about just who are you and who are you representing. It's very vital that you should know we have to keep our minds. And a mind is a terrible thing to waste in the hands of an oppressor. So we have got to stop this oppressing moment from going on. How is it that when African Americans could not be schooled or educated, they brought in the immigrants, and the immigrants took the place of our learning and our education? I say we're non-immigrants in a land that doesn't recognize us, because we have to ask for what it is we have a right to. No man has to ask for a piece of land. When you cohabitate on that land, it becomes yours. What we have had in the past is a few people thinking everything to belong to them. How could God have made such a mistake that he would give all of the land and all of the riches to one race of people? Could God be that dumb? Then I can't serve him if he is. We serve him because he serves us. And if he is not serving you, then you quit serving him. Which God are we talking about? Are we talking about somebody else's made-up God? Then make up your own, create your own, and then have him to deliver to you. You are not to be serving him. He works through your eyes. He sees through your experience. He would not know any experience if he could not move and have his being within you. So therefore, you have to command your God to serve you and to remember that you have need. And if you have need, all of your needs are to be met by your God. We have got to change this thing around called God. And we have got to have our own name for God. Every religion comes up and every race comes up with a name for their infinite spiritual God. And then we come up with the name of Akamare, the God that covers all gods, who is the all, who actually created the earth, but he also has generals and corporals that work below him. And therein lies the God that works in the outer courts of heaven, and the one that works here on this earth, and the one that he placed on your head. He delegates. God cannot be everywhere at all times. That is why it took many other representatives so he can delegate that information out there so that we all would have God walking beside us at all times on our head. If you have any success, then give it to your head, because it's your head who got you there and the God that sits on your head. Now, I want us to be as cunning as a serpent and as loud as a roaring lion, because there's a work that has to be done. These communities have been broken down. Now we must build them up. And as we build them up, There will be sound communities respecting all races of people, all denominations and culture, inbreeding in each person the truth and not telling lies about one race of people dominating others here. How could a God create one person to reside over another person and put their foot on their back? How could a God do something like that? When he allows the eagle to fly so high, and the eagle flies so high and high up in the sky. I thank God for the eagle, because the eagle knows when he needs to lower his level. The eagle knows, even the eagle knows. Look at the eagle as he flies in the sky there. He flies so high in the sky. Now, I want to send a message to some of you who are looking for something to do, who said there are no jobs. There are jobs. They've created volunteer jobs for us to get out there. Have not your parents taught you it is important to go out and volunteer in your community? Give yourself and give your time, because it will be wisely utilized and the benefits will come back.